Now the Yamaha P145 is the replacement to the P45, and between those two models, Yamaha really has dominated the 500 US market in terms of weighted 88.0 instruments. With Kawai, they've never had a model that really competed with the 45 or the 145 until now. The ES60 is designed explicitly, in fact, to go after this market and come out with a product that isn't just a copycat of the 145. It actually changes the equation of what this price point should be delivering to the customer. Here's how, specifically. The P145 has a maximum polyphony of 64. Now for the price point, that's pretty typical. But down here with the ES60, we're now up to a polyphony of 192. It's a big difference. Now if we're talking about speakers and amplifier, the P145 is sporting a pair of 7-watt speakers. Again, pretty typical, if not maybe on the slightly more robust side for this price point. Move down to the ES60, however, and now we've got a pair of 10-watt speakers, and it definitely fills a room in a very different way than any other option I've been able to play at this price point. And then third is undoubtedly the quality of the piano sample itself. And if you think about really what Kawai has tried to build its digital piano reputation around over the last 10 years, it's been action and the quality of the piano tone. And so I'm not totally surprised that with the ES60, particularly when you get it in a side-by-side, this sample just feels thicker, it sounds thicker, there's just more audio information in there, there's less filtering going on, and the dynamic range of the instrument reflects that as well. Now, before we get too much further, I'm well aware that specs very rarely tell the whole story completely on their own. You've got to listen to them and where possible, touch and play them as well. So what do we actually get when we play these two instruments side by side? Well, let's have a listen. There's just more information contained in the sample that the Kawai is using. And on top of that, because of the added polyphony, you also have a lot more resonance that's happening and capable through the harmonic imaging engine. So it's just producing and sustaining more partials, meaning more audio information, more harmonics, than the Yamaha can. And that has nothing to do with whether you prefer a Yamaha tone or a Kawai tone. So this leads to an interesting observation, which is that Kawai has equipped this piano with 2 1/4-inch outputs on the back, which is also pretty rare for this price point. Roland doesn't do it, nor does Yamaha. And this makes me think that they actually see the ES60 potentially being embraced by the semi-professional community. Because when you've got a piano tone that's that rich, it's almost borderline able to be used in some recordings, and for sure, it's good enough to be used in a professional performance setting. And you've got the audio jacks now to support that. Now, neither one of these instruments has any wireless connectivity. But in terms of the features that are on board, we've got a fairly wide array of sounds available on the Kawai at 17, with the Yamaha that's limited to 10. They also both have all of the same basic functionality, such as transpose and onboard metronome. Now, I've left one big subject out of the conversation so far, and that is action. These two actions feel quite different. The Yamaha is using their traditional GHC action. Now that has been improved over the years. I was not a big fan of some of the earlier renditions of the GHC, which I've made mention of over the channel. Their newer versions of the GHC, I've personally been a lot more satisfied to play on. Whereas on the Kawai, they've released a brand new action with this model called the Responsive Hammer Light, or RHL. Now both are fairly compact actions, but there are definitely some differences. So the first difference is, I'm not sure how Kawai has engineered this, but the pressure difference in terms of how hard it is to press the key at the front versus the back of the key is a much smaller difference here than it is on the Yamaha. And even though you never really play the key up here, it is a good reference point to understand how big a gradient there is. And pressing right there compared to right there, the Kawai is substantially lighter to press down at the back of the key. That's an interesting piece of engineering because that's been a common complaint of increasingly compacted graded hammer actions over the last 5 years. But the more meaningful difference here comes in actually how the action feels to play in normal settings. And there's two big differences here. One is that the Yamaha goes with a slightly more sticky, glossy action on their white keys, so you're gonna feel a lot more grippy on that key, and depending on your playing style and what you're used to, that could be a positive or a negative or a neutral. Down on the Kawai, they have gone with a matte finish on the white key, which is actually pretty unusual for digital piano in this price range. Matte white keys are kind of an ongoing debate anyway. Even up into the acoustic piano realm, you've got some pianos that just have a slightly more matted finish versus others which are really highly glossy. So Kawai has selected the matte. Now what does that mean? It means that your finger is more easily able to glide over the key. It's not going to feel quite as stuck or sticky on a gloss key. On the Kawai, it's a deeper key bed than what you get on the Yamaha. The Yamaha is quite a bit of a shallower key bed. This is going to produce a couple of different effects. One, you are going to notice it playing, but what that extra travel distance actually gives you is the ability to control a wider dynamic range with a greater level of accuracy. No matter what angle you're looking at this from a spec standpoint, the Kawai really has out-muscled the Yamaha in this lane. So we're going to do one last thing with these two instruments, which is give you at home a sense of the speaker performance. We're going to record both of these instruments with exactly the same settings and exactly the same mic placement so you can hear as close as what I'm hearing in person and not just the line out. So let's get started with that. Thank you so much everybody for checking out this comparison. We've got links to both of these instruments depending on which one you want to go and investigate more. We've also done individual reviews of both of these instruments as well on the channel, so please check those out. Consider subscribing. My name is Stu Harrison, and we will see you soon.